It's not anti-Semitism to point out that not that out of that most of our representatives have an AIPAC handler. We also give Israel $5 billion a year for what? Okay, so what I'm going to point out, but I doubt that TikTok is going to keep this up because they took down my last video, because of course this would not want people to know this. But the very same thing that's happening to Americans right now is what happened to the German people. It's how the German people were victimized. It is. And the German people were put in a place of being so terrified, so enraged, that their very life, they propagandized so badly, and it's the exact same talking points, propagandized so badly that they terrified and enraged the Germans to the point where they felt that it was either them that lived or the Jews had to go in order for them to live. And that's what's happening with this. It is. You can say, no, well, it's AIPAC, it's this. No, this. What disturbs me about this is that I didn't follow Q, but yet I went on there to search about Israel and all this stuff. And what the Q posted was that it asked the question, did the Nazis ever go away? And when you realize and you look up, and it talked about the propagandizing, what history is repeating. And it is. That's what's being done to Americans right now over this issue, is wanting to do to, and it's doing a good job because Americans are finding all of these reasons to blame Israel for everything. It's exactly what happened to the German people. It's how they victimized them. It's how they put them in a state that it's them or us. And it was all propagandized. So let me start here because most people don't know about the Havara Agreement. The Nazis had a complex and contradictory stance on the idea of a Jewish state in Palestine. While they despised Zionism and viewed it as part of a broader Jewish world conspiracy, they briefly allowed German Jews to immigrate to Palestine during the 1930s under the Havara Agreement. This was out of support for Zionism, but rather, this was not out of a support for Zionism, but rather as a means to rid Germany of Jews while confiscating their possessions. Hitler ridiculed the idea of Jews establishing and defending a state, dismissing them as incapable of nation building. Nazi propaganda portrayed a potential Jewish state in Palestine as a Vatican for the Jews, central to an international conspiracy threatening Germany and even Islam in the Middle East. Ultimately, Nazi policies aimed to prevent the emergence of a Jewish state, seeing it as incompatible with their anti-Semitic worldviews. Nazi propaganda falsely claimed that the Jewish people were pedophiles as part of their broader anti-Semitic ideology. This was used to dehumanize and justify violence against Jewish communities during the Holocaust. The Nazis claimed that Jews controlled the media as part of their broader anti-Semitic propaganda campaign. They adapted long-standing stereotypes to portray Jews as deceitful and dangerous, blaming them for Germany's problems, including alleged dominance over media and finances. This narrative was reinforced through films, posters, radio broadcast, and even children's books, dehumanizing Jewish people and spreading lies about their influence. Nazis falsely claimed that the Jews sought to commit genocide against Germany. What do you see right now? Everybody's saying that Israel is committing genocide against Palestine, when really it's the other way around. This was part of their anti-Semitic propaganda, which framed Jews as a unified, malevolent force aiming to destroy Germany. They propagated conspiracy theories such as the Jewish war theory, alleging that Jews started World War II and sought Germany's destruction. Adolf Hitler's 1939 prophecy speech even claimed that a war caused by Jews would result in their annihilation, framing the Holocaust as a self-defense against an alleged Jewish threat. Nazi propaganda portrayed Jews as a dangerous subhuman group responsible for Germany's problems, using dehumanization and demonization to justify their persecution. Jews were likened to rats, lice, cockroaches, and parasites in speeches, posters, publications, stripping them of any human qualities and moral consideration at all. They were depicted as malevolent agents of evil, scheming to undermine Germany through communism, capitalism, and culture degeneration. Jews were blamed for Germany's economic struggles, accused of greed and exploiting the nation. Propaganda emphasized that Jews were an alien presence, incapable with the Nazi vision of the Aryan national community, justifying their removal from public life. The Nazis claimed that the Jews sought to control the world as part of their anti-Semitic propaganda. They promoted conspiracy theories about a supposed Jewish world conspiracy, alleging that Jews manipulated global politics, finance, media to dominate nations and destroy Germany. These ideas were rooted in fabricated texts like the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and were used to justify Nazi policies, including genocide. Nazi propaganda portrayed Jews as orchestrating both capitalism and communism to enslave non-Jewish populations and framed World War II as a defensive struggle against this alleged global Jewish threat. So every single thing is what is happening to America right now because of this group, because the Candace Owens, the Whitney West, all of these people use the very same talking points. The very same talking points. And what happened to the poor Germans is they were terrified because everywhere they went, they would see posters and there was broadcasters and there were radio stations and movies that were put out, and everything was that the Jews were going to, that there was this Jewish threat that was a global. They owned the banks, they owned everything. They wanted to get them, which then caused Germany to feel threatened and feel that it was necessary that something be done about the Jews. The Germans were completely victimized by this. And that is what is happening to Americans right now. And Americans are falling into the very same trap. What you went on to say with the Gulf or the USS Liberty, look, that was a miscommunication. That was a miscommunication. Yeah, I wonder why. And not because of Israel. Israel isn't looking to hurt its only neighbor that stands by them, because nobody else has stood by them. So if Americans want to fall into the exact same trap and believing all these narratives that they own the bank, they own the whole world, they're behind every problem that's ever happened, and you want to believe this narrative about AIPAC, and I'm not saying that it's just this AIPAC has been blown up, just like all these things are. It is exactly the same playbook that they did to Germany. So if Americans want to learn from history, then it might be a good idea not to fall for the same propaganda that the poor Germans were victimized by.